The first chill of autumn had just begun to bite the air in Minneapolis as I celebrated my 44th birthday. My name is Alaric, and I work as a software engineer for a mid-sized tech company. Life, I thought, was good. I had a stable job, a comfortable home in the suburbs, and a wife, Isolde, whom I adored. We'd been married for 15 years, a milestone wed celebrated with a trip to Italy, or so I thought. Isolde was a vibrant woman, a talented graphic designer with a quick wit and a smile that could melt glaciers. We met at a local art fair and I was instantly smitten. Our relationship had always felt like a fairy tale, full of laughter, shared dreams, and a deep, unwavering love. Or so I believed. The first crack in our seemingly perfect world appeared subtly, almost imperceptibly. It started with Isolde working late more often. A big project at the firm, she'd explain, her eyes tired but her voice reassuring. I never doubted her. Why would I? Then came the phone calls. She'd step out of the room to answer them, her voice hushed and secretive. When I asked who it was, she'd brush it off. Just work, she'd say, a hint of annoyance in her tone. I tried to ignore the nagging feeling in my gut, attributing it to stress and overwork on my part. One evening, I decided to surprise Isolde at her office with dinner. I'd picked up her favorite Thai food from a local restaurant and imagined her delight when I arrived. But when I got there, the office was dark and empty. I called her, and she answered on the third ring, her voice breathless. "Where are you?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. I had to go to a client meeting," she stammered. It came up suddenly. "Oh," I replied, my heart sinking. "Well, I have dinner here. I'll just take it home." "Okay, honey. I'll be late. Don't wait up." I drove home, the Thai food growing cold in the passenger seat. As I sat alone at the table, the weight of suspicion pressed down on me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The next morning, Isolde was unusually cheerful, almost giddy. She sang in the shower, a rare occurrence these days, and made me a lavish breakfast, complete with heart-shaped pancakes. I tried to push my doubts aside, wanting to believe that everything was fine, that I was just being paranoid. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. A few days later, while Isolde was at work, I needed to find a document she'd scanned and saved on our home computer. I went to her profile and opened her documents folder. There, among the usual files, was a folder labeled Italy Trip. Curiosity piqued, I opened it. Inside were dozens of photos, not of the romantic getaway I thought we'd shared, but of Isolde with another man. They were in Venice, Rome, and Florence, laughing, holding hands, kissing. My blood ran cold. The man was tall, handsome, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. I didn't recognize him. I scrolled through the photos, each one a dagger twisting in my heart. The betrayal was so blatant, so callous. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving me gasping for breath. I spent the next few hours in a daze, replaying the past few months in my mind, searching for clues I'd missed, signs I'd ignored. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden business trips, it all made sense now. I had been living a lie. When Isolde came home that evening, I was waiting for her, the Italy Trip folder open on the computer screen. She walked in, her face bright, and then her eyes landed on the photos. Her smile faltered and her face paled. "Alaric," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Who is he, Isolde?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. She hesitated, her eyes darting around the room, searching for an escape. It's complicated," she finally said. "Complicated. You were in Italy with another man, Isolde. How is that complicated?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said. "It just happened, I repeated, my voice rising. "You didn't mean for it to happen. You spent weeks with him, Isolde. You planned it, you orchestrated it, you lied to me about it. How can you stand there and say you didn't mean for it to happen?" She began to sob, her body shaking. "I'm so sorry, Alaric," she cried. "I never wanted to hurt you, but you did hurt me, Isolde," I said, my voice cracking. "You broke my heart. You shattered everything I thought we had." She tried to touch me, but I recoiled. "Don't," I said. "Just don't. His name is Kiernan," she confessed, her voice barely audible. He's my boss." My blood boiled. "Your boss? You were sleeping with your boss?" She nodded, her face buried in her hands. "It started a few months ago," she said. He was very persistent, and I was feeling neglected. You were always working, always on your computer. I felt like you didn't see me anymore. "So you decided to sleep with your boss," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's your excuse, Isolde. That I didn't pay enough attention to you, it's not an excuse," she said, her voice rising. "It's an explanation. You weren't there for me, Alaric. You were always so focused on your work. I needed someone who would listen to me, who would make me feel wanted, and Kiernan did that for you," I asked, my voice laced with bitterness. "Yes," she said softly. "He did." I stared at her, my heart aching with a pain I had never known before. "I don't understand," I said. "I loved you, Isolde. I gave you everything. How could you do this to me?" "I don't know," she said, her voice filled with remorse. I made a mistake." "A mistake," I repeated. "This wasn't a mistake, Isolde. This was a deliberate act of betrayal. You destroyed our marriage, our life together, and for what? A cheap affair with your boss." She didn't answer, her face contorted with grief. "Get out," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "What?" she asked, her eyes wide with shock. "Get out of my house, Isolde," I said, my voice gaining strength. "I don't want to see you again." She hesitated, her eyes pleading. "Alaric, please," she begged. "Don't do this. We can work through this. I promise it won't happen again." "No," I said, my voice firm. "It's over, Isolde. I'm done." She stood there for a moment, tears streaming down her face, and then she turned and walked out of the house, leaving me alone with the shattered remains of our life. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and endless tears. I filed for divorce, and Isolde didn't contest it. She moved out of the house, taking with her the few belongings she claimed were hers. I was left with the house, the memories, and the overwhelming sense of loss. I tried to throw myself into my work, but it was no use. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus. My mind was always replaying the photos, the conversations, the lies. I was consumed by anger, sadness, and a deep, gnawing sense of betrayal. My friends tried to console me, to offer support, but I pushed them away. I didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to relive the pain. I just wanted to be alone, to wallow in my misery. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I decided to go to a local bar to drown my sorrows. I sat in a dark corner, nursing a beer, trying to ignore the laughter and chatter around me. As I sat there, a woman approached me. She was tall, with fiery red hair and a kind smile. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. I shrugged. "Suit yourself," I said, my voice gruff. She sat down and ordered a drink. "Rough day?" she asked, her eyes filled with empathy. I hesitated, and then I found myself pouring out my heart to her, telling her about Isolde, about the affair, about the divorce. She listened patiently, offering words of comfort and support. Her name was Saoirse, and she was a therapist. She told me that what I was going through was normal, that it was okay to feel angry, sad, and betrayed. She encouraged me to seek professional help, to talk to someone who could help me process my emotions. I was skeptical at first, but I decided to give it a try. I started seeing Saoirse for therapy, and slowly, gradually, I began to heal. She helped me understand that Isolde's actions were not a reflection of my worth, that I was not to blame for her infidelity. She also encouraged me to focus on myself, to rediscover my passions, to rebuild my life. I started taking art classes, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time for. I reconnected with old friends, and I started dating again. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when I wanted to give up. But with Saoirse's help, I persevered. I learned to forgive Isolde, not for her sake, but for my own. I realized that holding onto the anger and resentment was only hurting me. As I began to heal, a new emotion began to surface, a desire for revenge. I couldn't let Isolde and Kiernan get away with what they had done. They had destroyed my life, and I wanted them to pay. I started investigating Kiernan, digging into his past, searching for dirt. It didn't take long to find something. It turned out that Kiernan had a history of sexual harassment, that he had been accused of creating a hostile work environment by several former employees. I gathered the evidence and contacted a lawyer. We filed a lawsuit against Kiernan and Isolde's company, alleging sexual harassment and wrongful termination. The lawsuit was a bombshell. It made headlines, and Kiernan's reputation was ruined. He was fired from his job, and his career was over. Isolde was also ostracized, her colleagues turning their backs on her. They had both lost everything. I felt a sense of satisfaction, a sense of justice. But it was short-lived. As I looked at the wreckage I had created, I realized that revenge had not brought me the peace I had hoped for. It had only made me feel emptier, more hollow. Saoirse helped me see that revenge was a dead end, that it was not the answer to my pain. She encouraged me to let go of the anger and resentment, to focus on building a new life, a better life. I took her advice. I dropped the lawsuit and I focused on my art, my friends, and my own well-being. I started volunteering at a local homeless shelter, helping others who were struggling. I found purpose and meaning in helping others, and it filled the void in my heart. It took time, but eventually I healed. I learned to trust again, to love again. I found a new partner, a woman named Bronte who was kind, compassionate, and supportive. We built a life together, filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. I never forgot what Isolde had done, but I learned to forgive her. I realized that her actions were a reflection of her own insecurities and flaws, not of my worth. I moved on, and I created a life that was even better than the one I had lost. Years later, I received a letter from Isolde. She apologized for what she had done, acknowledging the pain she had caused. She said that she had realized her mistake, that she regretted her actions every day. She asked for my forgiveness. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had already forgiven her, not for her sake, but for my own. I had moved on, and I was finally at peace. My journey through betrayal, heartbreak, and revenge was a long and arduous one, but it taught me valuable lessons about love, forgiveness, and the power of resilience. I emerged from the darkness stronger, wiser, and more compassionate, and I am grateful for the life I have now, a life filled with love, joy, and purpose. One day, while browsing through an online forum, I stumbled upon a post about cheating spouses. A wave of sadness washed over me as I read the stories of others who had experienced similar betrayals. I realized that my story could offer hope and inspiration to those who were struggling to cope with infidelity. I decided to share my story, hoping that it would help others find their way through the darkness. I wrote about the pain, the anger, the heartbreak, and the eventual healing. I shared my experiences with therapy, with forgiveness, and with finding new love. The response was overwhelming. People from all over the world reached out to me, thanking me for sharing my story. They said that it had given them hope, that it had helped them feel less alone. Some were still in the midst of their pain, while others had already begun to heal. But all of them found solace and inspiration in my words. I realized that my experience, as painful as it had given me a unique perspective on love, loss, and forgiveness. I decided to dedicate my time to helping others who were struggling with infidelity. I became a certified relationship coach, and I started offering online counseling services. I helped countless couples navigate the challenges of infidelity, helping them to heal, to rebuild trust, and to create stronger, more fulfilling relationships. I became a voice of hope and healing in the world of infidelity, offering guidance, support, and inspiration to those who needed it most. And so, my story, which began in heartbreak and betrayal, evolved into a story of hope, healing, and redemption. It is a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Years passed, and I continued to thrive in my new life with Bronte. We traveled the world, pursued our passions, and supported each other through thick and thin. I often thought about Isolde and Kiernan, wondering what had become of them. I had heard through mutual acquaintances that they had struggled to maintain their relationship after the scandal, eventually parting ways. Isolde had moved to a small town, working as a freelance graphic designer, while Kiernan had faded into obscurity, his career in ruins. One day, I received an unexpected email. It was from Isolde. She wrote that she had been following my work as a relationship coach and was deeply impressed by the positive impact I was having on others. She expressed her sincere remorse for the pain she had caused me and acknowledged that her actions had been selfish and short-sighted. She admitted that she had never truly appreciated the love and commitment I had offered her, and that she had made a terrible mistake in betraying my trust. Isolde went on to say that she had learned a great deal from her experiences and had grown as a person. She had sought therapy and had worked hard to understand the underlying reasons for her infidelity. She had come to realize that her actions had been driven by her own insecurities and a deep-seated need for validation. She had finally accepted responsibility for her choices and was committed to living a more authentic and meaningful life. She ended the email by asking for my forgiveness, not because she felt entitled to it, but because she knew that it would bring her a sense of closure and peace. She understood that I might not be able to forgive her, but she hoped that I could at least acknowledge her sincerity. I sat there for a long time, staring at the email, my heart filled with a mix of emotions. There was a part of me that still felt the sting of betrayal, the pain of heartbreak. But there was also a part of me that felt compassion for Isolde, a recognition of her genuine remorse. I thought about the journey I had taken since that fateful day when I discovered her affair. I had gone through hell and back, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I had learned to forgive not just others but also myself. I had found new love, new purpose, and a new appreciation for life. I realized that holding onto anger and resentment would only hold me back, preventing me from fully embracing the joy and fulfillment that life had to offer. I decided to let go of the past and to move forward with an open heart. I replied to Isolde's email, offering her my forgiveness. I told her that I appreciated her sincerity and that I was glad that she had found a path to healing and growth. I wished her well in her future endeavors and encouraged her to continue on her journey of self-discovery. I didn't expect a response, but a few days later, I received another email from Isolde. She thanked me for my forgiveness and said that it had lifted a great weight from her shoulders. She expressed her gratitude for the positive impact I had had on her life, even though it had been through a painful experience. She also shared that she had found a new purpose in helping others who had experienced infidelity. She had become a volunteer counselor at a local support group, offering guidance and support to those who were struggling to cope with betrayal and heartbreak. She had found a way to turn her pain into something positive, to use her experiences to help others heal. I was deeply moved by her words. I realized that Isolde had not only found redemption for herself, but had also become an agent of healing for others. She had transformed her life from one of betrayal and regret to one of compassion and service. From that day forward, I carried a sense of peace and closure that I had never known before. I had forgiven Isolde, not just for her sake, but for my own. I had let go of the past and had embraced the present with an open heart. I had found love, purpose, and fulfillment in my new life with Bronte, and I was grateful for every moment. And so, my story, which had begun in heartbreak and betrayal, had come full circle. It was a story of pain, loss, and forgiveness, but it was also a story of hope, healing, and redemption. It was a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity and to create a life of meaning and purpose, even in the face of unimaginable pain. The experience with Isolde, as devastating as it was, ultimately shaped me into a better person. It taught me the importance of communication, honesty, and trust in a relationship. It showed me the resilience of the human heart and the capacity for forgiveness. It inspired me to dedicate my life to helping others navigate the complexities of love and relationships, to guide them toward healing and fulfillment. And so, I continue on my journey, sharing my story with the world, offering hope and inspiration to those who are struggling with infidelity. I am a survivor, a healer, and a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity and to create a life of meaning and purpose, even in the face of unimaginable pain.